So we're live.
Yeah. So, hello everyone. Well, I'm Francesco Orsini, and I'm here also with Patricia Paiva. We will be sharing this workshop on the results of the last Urban Greenhouse Challenge organized by Wageningen University. So, well, I will first have a brief overview of a project I'm currently coordinating that is within the framework of the H 2020 of the European Union. That is actually about very close subjects to those of this challenge. I don't know if you can. Shall I share the screen, Marta? Oh, okay. So,
I already started.
yeah, thank you. So basically, it is a project about sustainability of city region food systems across Europe that is aiming at accelerating the growth of citizen-led food system initiative in European cities. It is actually targeting to respond to the challenges of urbanization, the increased environmental pressure and social challenges that we will be facing in the coming years, enabling paving the way for sustainable food system initiatives. And what is actually interesting is that we are going to develop 15 pilot projects in the coming years, and they will actually be implemented following a similar framework than the one that was actually targeted in the urban greenhouse challenge. So we are asking students from all over Europe and from all over the world to help us in redesigning these spaces and implementing sustainable food system initiatives. Within the project, we are also developing IT tools like an app for monitoring, reviewing, and retrieving data on city region food system sustainabilities. And this targets overall enabling the environment for societal uptake of these projects. We are promoting this urban greenhouse challenge also within the network of the Foodie project, and also in collaboration with the International Society for Horticultural Science, where I'm actually chairing the division on landscape and urban horticulture, and this scientific society that has been promoting the urban greenhouse challenge is also here represented by Patricia. If Patricia, you want to say some words about the ISHS.
Good afternoon for everyone. Good afternoon for everyone. My name is Patricia, and I am a board member of ISHS. That's a society of individuals, organizations, and governmental agencies devoted to horticultural research, education, and industry to improve human well-being through meetings and publications. Also explores and explains the main contributions of horticulture to a healthy human environment. This society is over 60 years old and has already held more than 1,200 symposia, published scientific journals such as Acta Horticulturae, European Journal, and Fruits, and has members from all world continents. The society has members in around 150 countries, and the memberships can be individual, including students, as well country or institutional members. The nice point out that the society board is composed by members from all continents, and this is me. I'm a representative from South America. Each year, the Society holds around 45 meetings. You see the list in the Society website through this link. Also, the Society holds at each 4 years the International Horticultural Congress. The last Congress was in Istanbul, Turkey, and the next one will be in 2022 in Angers, France. I would like to invite you to join us. If you go to the website, you may register to receive updated information. The society is divided in 14 divisions, which cover all scientific areas in horticulture. Also, you may find this at the website. As I mentioned, the society published the acta, which is the proceeding of each symposium. Chronica, that is a magazine with horticultural highlights. And also 2 scientific journals, European Journal for temperate crops and fruit for tropical and subtropical horticulture. Another nice publication is Scripta, which is a series for special topics. And I would like to invite you to visit the society on the website and also follow us in the Facebook. We'll be very glad if you join us. And in the name of the ISHS Society, I would like to congratulate the team's winners of this challenge, Team Spirit, CAS, and Bagua. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. So I think now Marta Eggers from Wageningen University will present us the challenge that was organized last year. And,
that's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Welcome, everybody. I would like to start with a short after movie showing the highlights of the challenge. Let me start the video.
It's a challenge set out for students to design an urban farm, an urban greenhouse in China.
With the mission to help and innovate the development of future farming solutions.
Very interdisciplinary, so you have to design everything.
You can have super nice ideas for the social part, but you also have to talk to the business department, you have to talk to the architecture, if that's really realistic.
It was a lot of time. I don't know if I can measure how much time it takes, you know.
I would definitely do it again if they'd ask me, but I really didn't know it would be so big.
We got 23 floors of stuff actually in the building, and that makes it really cool actually.
You're building it brick by brick, from energy systems to social impact, and that is the challenge.
So, nervous yet?
A little bit. Healthy nervous.
At first it was a bit nerve-wracking, of course, but then afterwards it was just exciting, and it was nice to see the reactions of the jury. And
feels really good that after you put all the effort in, you're finally standing here as well.
It's incredible. We see that every team has made a very good job, and it's very exciting that we can make this too.
I think we had a lot of ups and downs like every team, but in the end I think it's incredible the outcome that we achieved.
Not ticking the boxes, but you're designing the boxes that need to be ticked. So you're really building from the ground up, and you're so free in what you're doing, and you're encountering things that you would never encounter in a regular course.
I'm proud of what we have made.
Sure, yeah, like it's already gonna be on my resume. So.
Yeah, and you only started from a piece of land, and now you got this.
Welcome viewers at home, and welcome here, audience, to the Urban Greenhouse Challenge of 2020. The the journey to the grand finale has been tough.
We need innovation. So that's why these challenges like this are very important, not only in an international context, also for the Dutch farmers and horticulture.
What's exciting to see is that this idea is no longer just an idea, that it's just a student challenge to look at what the future might be. I think what really get out is you think immediately, how do I implement this ideas, concept, the integration with businesses, with governments, and around the world.
And the winner of the challenge is Team...
It's all the teamwork from everybody for 10 months, so yeah, we made it.
Yay!
Okay, so that was the video, the after movie of the challenge. And now let me explain a little bit what the challenge was about. So every second year, Wageningen University and Research organizes this Urban Greenhouse Challenge. And in every edition, we call students to come up with an ultimate urban greenhouse challenge for a populated area in the world. And in this second edition of the challenge, we ask specifically for an iconic and circular urban greenhouse for the city of Dongguan in China. And we specifically requested that it produces safe and healthy food for the local neighborhoods and also stimulates a healthy lifestyle and interactions with city dwellers. So basically, the teams had to integrate 5 different aspects: architecture, circularity, food production system, business model, and social impact. And in every edition, we focus on a different location. It's always about the metropolitan areas in the world. In the first edition, it was Amsterdam. In the second edition, we moved quite some 1,000 kilometers to the east, to Dongguan in southern China. And to give you a little bit an idea, it's a very populated, I think it's the most populated area in the world, but it's also an innovation hub of China, so very exciting context. And we met there our hosting partner, Country Garden Agriculture, who was asked by the municipal government to come up with a development plan for a green field and to change it into a agricultural park. So that's a little bit of their master plan. It doesn't look like this now, but that's how it should look in the future. And for our challenge teams, we got a piece of land that looks like this at the moment. And hopefully in the future, it will look much more exciting. The Urban Greenhouse Challenge is a full-time challenge. So it takes 1 academic year to complete it. And this edition was special and more exciting because of the outbreak of the COVID. Therefore, the first half of the challenge went according to the plan. And from February onwards, we had to go online and quite significantly modify the initial ideas. What is quite unique about Urban Greenhouse Challenge is that the teams are being coached by the partners of the challenge. Those are people from academia as well as from companies. And that all happens in an online environment, which was quite, it was quite an advantage with the outbreak of the COVID. And the challenge consists of actually 3 rounds, and every round ends with a milestone. So in the first milestone, the first round is really about coming up with initial ideas. So teams have to really analyze the context and then come up with the first building concept. Then starts the most exciting part, when the top 20 teams go actually to the site to collect data. And that was not possible in this edition of the Urban Greenhouse Challenge. So we had quite some inspirational events online, but we were not allowed, it was not possible to go to China to collect data. Afterwards comes the second milestone, where the teams really need to elaborate on their initial ideas and come up with detailed design. And there were very nice reports that came out of this phase. And we ask the teams to come up with a concept that is holistic, coherent, but also in depth. So they really need to elaborate on those 5 aspects that I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation and integrate it into one coherent concept. As organizers of the challenge, we provide minimum requirements, but the sky is the limit, and the finalists definitely went much beyond the minimum requirements. This is how the grand finale looked like. So very typical for the COVID world, with elbow greeting, people on the screens, QR codes, and empty seats. And those are the finalists, and they are going to present now the concepts in quite some detail, which I think they never had opportunity so far, since we always ask them to provide a short summary only. So I hope you will enjoy the presentation. I give the floor to Team Spirit. Thank you. Hannah, I think you are muted. Hi, I think you maybe need to reset just to re-enter the room. Maybe in the meantime, if you allowed, I will ask Team Cass to start the presentation instead of Team Spirit. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. We can start.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go to the slides. Yeah, so hello everyone. My name is Ivo, and next to me is James, 1.5 meters away. ISHS, thank you for having us in Foodie, and we would very much like to present our idea to you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the challenge, but Marta already did. So really briefly about the team. So who's in our team, the journey, show us our greenhouse, our concept with the food production, circularity, business model and social impact, and share some experiences and lessons learned. So, well, this part you already heard, international competition organized by Wageningen University. So bring food production back to the city, located in Dongguan, China this year. And our team is consists out of 12 students, all from the WER. So 3 biotechnology, 2 landscape architects, plant science, international development, you name it, quite a broad selection of disciplines. And in the next slide, you will see some faces that go with the persons. Sadly, no group picture due to Corona, but you can still get a little glimpse of how we look. So organization-wise, we divided our team into 4 groups. So social impact, food production, circularity, and design. Those teams had separate group meetings, and we had additional team meetings, and we would arrange meetings between these subgroups, because coordination in this challenge was really important, and communication, because you don't want to work on separate islands, because you want to integrate everything into one coherent concept, which I will talk about you in the next slide. No, this is the journey. So yeah, we eventually came in second at the grand finale, and now we're at this webinar, and we're still very much excited for the future, and yeah, telling you about the CAS vision, which consists of this building, which is an aesthetic building which merges into the landscape. Remember, we had 2 landscape architects, so this was really important for us. It also includes redirecting heat, so working with a lot of green, catching rainfall into a big reservoir for food production systems, and making it as attractive as possible for those who want to visit. And we also have a short clip for you, our architectural video, which we will show you now.
The CAS greenhouse is an urban farm designed along the principles of the Lingnan style. These principles, for instance, are represented in the curved west side of the building. Resilient yet environmental, the structure is designed with a steel donor skeleton and recycled concrete. Bright and open is the main theme of our interior design. We focus on multifunctionality and transparency between workers and visitors. Right outside of the building, the forum provides a perfect outdoor lecture and meeting place, while providing a visual access to our food production system. The orientation towards a traditional farmland restores a currently lost relationship with the surrounding landscape. Iconic, transparent, and revolutionary. That's the CAS greenhouse.
Yeah, can you make it? Yeah. So our concept revolves around 2 things. So one is creating a sophisticated urban farm, and 2 is a social program in which we want to secure the future for smallholder farmers, rural to urban migrants, and consumers. And we will talk to you what that means to us and how we envision this in the next slide. So first, the blue dot, we want to include, support, and utilize marginalized groups. So we identified rural to urban migrants and smallholder farmers as groups with undervalued potential, which we wanted to include in our project and maximize their potential. So we want to show them a way how they can increase income potential by including some sustainable agricultural practices and with education. And we use urban farming also to reconnect consumers and the people again with agriculture. So circularity and sustainability are taken into account every step of the way. And by including everything, we want to create a systemic approach and have tailored solutions. So solutions that really make an impact. Also bridging the gap between what's good for the people in sustainable agricultural practices and what the consumers want, which we integrated to our business model. And in the end, we wanted to have a synergetic, scalable building and concept in which we rebrand agriculture so we can make young people excited.
All right, so this is the food production's quick skimming of what we produce and where we produce. As you notice, a lot of the crop choices that we decide to grow are quite different. Originally, we were also thinking microgreens and other herbal plants. However, after running few calculations, we realized that growing high-value crops are only a possible way to actually make profit out of such a high-cost, high-technology food production system. So dragon fruit, oyster mushroom, strawberries, and ginseng were our crop choices. The location of the production systems were placed based on the condition, like the environmental requirements of each crops. For instance, dragon fruit, which withstand the heat from 13 degrees to 45 degrees, were placed on top of the building in the glass house. So while it serves the visual aspect, but also can efficiently grow in each places. Another thing that I need to mention is our building is quite short. In total, it's only 3 stories, 5 stories, and then 2 stories are the basement 1 and 2. We had to design our building in this way in order to ensure and secure the maximum sunlight exposure to the outdoor field, which covers about 2,300 square meters. In the outdoor farming land, we also do crop rotations in order to secure the yearly production of different crops. These are the list of circularity systems that we incorporated in our farm. 2 things that I should mention is, one is a lot of the systems are interconnected. For instance, anaerobic digesters creates the methane, which goes into the biogas upgrader, and also the residual goes into biofertilizer, which is incorporated in, for instance, mushroom production. Of course, solar energy is served as the overall power generator of the farm. And also the last 2 systems, which is AAC-AEC and ECSTES. These are optional circularity energy production system. We put it as an optional because of the high production cost. However, these were also can be implemented in the farm, and further numbers are described in the business model and financial models later.
Yeah, so for the social impact, we first identified that we wanted to make an impact in the quality of the produce and supporting the smaller farmers. So essential to this is by providing them with education, and also in a broader sense. So this educational program is for professionals, but also for citizens, is to reconnect people with agriculture, also with cooking practices, which is a fundamental basic skill people need to have, we think, and really reconnects them with agriculture, and also makes them more aware of what goes into these agricultural practices and value them more. So that's our first pillar of the social impact system, and this one builds upon it. It's the Culinary Innovation and Experience Center. Because of right now, we see huge opportunity in changing people's diet. Last year, 2019, the WHO stated that nutrition was the main cause of death. So undernutrition, malnutrition, overnutrition. But also we see a huge opportunity in changing dietary patterns to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We want to show with research, education, that sustainable food and diets can be really good and easy. And that's what we want to do at the Culinary Innovation Experience Center. And the last part of the social impact program revolves around including those marginalized groups. So I told you about the rural to urban migrants that come to cities because there's a huge urbanization trend of farmland people, rural areas going to the urban areas, which are unemployed. So at first, our first section is creating an employment agency, which links back to the education. We want to upskill these migrants in order to let them participate in a sustainable manner in agriculture again. So providing them with the knowledge to go back and implement it in the farmland. But the second thing we identified is that smallholder farmers often do not have the resources to implement these sustainable agricultural practices. So we incorporated the microfinance system, and that's where the figure is about. So first, the microfinance institutions, they lend money to the Dongguan Farmers Corporation, which includes farmers in the Dongguan area, and also provide them with financial literacy. These farmers pay interest on their loans back to the microfinance institution, and with that money that they lend, they can buy the equipment and everything they need from the agri-tech firms, which are included in this operation. These agri-tech firms, they would pay a small fee to CAS, and CAS would provide the Dongguan Farmers Corporation with the skills and education needed to actually use these machineries and everything that they can buy. So how do we include this in a business model? As you saw, we focus on high value crops. So our consumers would mainly be higher educated, middle class urban citizens. But we create two phases in our business model. So first one is establishing the brand. We identified that there's a lot of food safety issues in China. People are worried, and people are also willing to pay more for safe foods. So we want to establish a brand that builds upon food safety, high quality produce, and high value crops. And the second part is using this business model in favor of building the community. So including marginalized groups and rebranding agriculture in a sustainable way.
So this is our financial statement. On the left is indicates the total revenue, and on the right side indicates the capital expenditure. Some of the key points we highlighted here are: one, our main source of income is from ginseng, which is about 80%, 75% of our total revenue produced by the food production and crop production itself. Another thing that we want to emphasize is that the culinary experience that we try to change, we try to implement the new diet into and also change the nutritional habits of the consumers. We also calculate that to be quite profitable to our farm. If you look at the right side of the financial statement, we expect the in the bottom, the total cost. As you see, we have option 1 and option 2. This is due to the different circularity energy production systems that you can implement. However, we also wanted to emphasize that the majority of the cost, like the capital expenditure, is actually from the building itself. And in about 10 years, we expect to break even with the revenue that we generate.
So what you want to include is our systemic approach, because circularity to us means much more than just resource efficiency. It's also about how do you provide those with the necessary skills to keep moving in the right direction, which includes training your own staff, which includes linking food production to education, to circularity in all different manners. And that's what you see in this figure, that we try to link as much components with each other to create a synergistic effect. So the two combined are more than those separate. So on to the last slide, our experience. Well, when you go into such a project, I think it's really important to develop a vision as soon as possible. So have a clear view with your whole team. So what do you want to do? Where do you stand for? Where do you focus on? Also make really clear arrangements, which we did, especially during COVID, but also keep the fun, because we went way more efficient than before, because the meetings, there's no small talk, which was nice. We got a lot of work done, but also keep the fun and keep the fun alive. Then also time management, because this challenge took us a year, and almost the greatest part of that year was extracurricular. So besides of your studies, so you have to take that into account, that everyone has a busy time schedule. You have to find ways to keep people going, to keep them motivated, and to have fun. So also crucial to this was to identify, utilize, and develop your skills. We were provided with a coach from the WER, which was really nice, helped us really a lot. So would recommend everyone that wants to do this kind of student challenge to get yourself a coach. Which he also helped us with the communication a lot, because you work in different subgroups. You are physically isolated now during COVID. So communication is essential in keeping the same vision in your whole group. And lastly, create a network and validate. So we're provided with the Urban Greenhouse Challenge network online, but we also had our own network, which benefited us a lot. A lot of people take time to talk to you, give their feedback, honest opinion, and that's really, really helped us a lot. So if there are any questions, we would gladly answer them.
I see one question. It's from Tom. He's asking, energy consumption is a very large reason why urban farming is facing hurdles. Solar PV systems do not solve that problem, as it produces way less electricity than needed for food production and using artificial lighting. The question, how have you taken this into account?
Well, the first part is strategically placing your food production in the right places. So, for instance, the dragon fruit, we place it on top of the building. So we don't have to, it grows in very high heat, so we don't have to cool it, so we don't waste any energy. The mushrooms, we place in the basement. So naturally a lot cooler and don't need any sunlight. So that's second. And yes, the solar panels couldn't provide all of the energy, but the last two systems, which we haven't elaborated a lot upon, revolved around the concept of using the grid, so electricity, storing it underground in compression air tanks, and buying this electricity at the bottom hours. So when the price is low and the demand on the grid is low, storing it and using it when we need it with something our team member designed. So that's the last part.
Patricia and Francesca, do you have any questions for Tinkat?
Yeah, well, this is more about the experience in the challenge. What was the biggest challenge for you to deal with when working in a team of people that you probably didn't know before?
Well, some of us knew each other because we started out as two separate teams and we eventually merged together before milestone 1. So some of us knew each other, but I think the biggest barrier was switching to online meetings. So as I said, it became really efficient, so no small talk, and it also created separate islands, which we had to get back into one country again.
I think for me, the biggest challenge was just meeting each other's expectation. I think we also had a few sessions with Martha about how to communicate with the team members. And like Ivo said during our presentation, that clearing our goal and specifying down to details was the crucial factor that we were able to get a lot of work done in time. And yeah, that was the challenge, but I think we managed it pretty well from our experience.
Great.
I'd like it.
Yeah.
Okay, Francesca?
Yeah, please,
Okay.
Patricia.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to ask you about the challenge, but concerning the goals about architecture, social impact, circularity, sustainability, design, which was the most complicated or difficult to decide or to prepare in this project?
Ooh. I think every one of them had its own challenges. I think the most complicated part was not in one section at all, but how does it interact with the others? Because you can have a brilliant food production system, but if it doesn't fit the building or the circularity aspect, it's worthless. So that was the most difficult part for me.
For me, it was just the economical part. Like you can also have a brilliant idea, but at the end, if you're just constantly losing money, we believe that this business model wouldn't make sense. So whatever we create, we incorporate in our system. We wanted to make it as profitable as possible, but that was quite challenging.
Okay, thank you.
Hannah, how is your microphone? Are you ready?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes? Great. That's great. So great, Team Kaz. It was nice to hear your story. Then I will find my presentation. All right. So on behalf of Team Spirit, I would like to tell you something. I'd like to take you through our building, our urban greenhouse, the Turtle. Let me see. So today I want to tell you something about our journey. I want to go into a little bit deeper of how we got from a nickname into a concept. I want to share some lessons learned with you. I think that were very valuable and that I think that other people should know as well. And of course, and eventually what's next and what are we planning on doing now? So to start off, our journey started with a lot of sketching, a lot of drawing, and a lot of crazy ideas I had to get into paper. We were very lucky to have very talented architects with us to actually make those ideas visible, which came into the first milestone picture that you see, especially when we were there in the chaotic meetings that we had in the beginning, because we were all figuring out what this challenge meant. And we did that from our offices, and we did it behind our laptops trying to find out what could turn into a great urban greenhouse. So then in the second stage, we went to the second round, and then we actually we wanted to get out of the building and actually see and experience what those greenhouses were. And yes, we also got into the dirty part as we went to Meerlanden, where we got more inspiration for our green waste facilities and to see what we can actually do with waste. And then we saw the value that it has. And also we went to GrowX and Blijswijk to see what is the current state of the art in greenhouses and to see what we could learn from them. And then in the next phase, Corona hit for everyone. Of course. And actually in the first part, it was kind of a challenge indeed to how to get those online meetings going and how to make sure that you stay efficient. And eventually it actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise for us, because we experienced that it was so nice to have something that you could work on during those uncertain times, and then also something that we could really work on together. So you felt really connected, and even though everyone was staying in their own home, and but that we knew we had that one goal that we could continue on to work on. And we also tried to keep it fun and to do those online drinks and to do some games or things that we can all do online. But next to that, next to the bonding part, we also got us a lot of opportunities to talk to a lot of people, because people had time. Everyone was sitting behind their computers, and everyone was also interested to talk to other people. So we had the opportunity to talk to a lot of experts, a lot of organizations and businesses that were willing to help us out, and which was really, really great. And then finally, the finals in August, in the summer, which were really nerve-wracking, but also really nice. And here you see some of the pictures that you might already know. So during those finals, one thing really came up, and that was why do you turn everything around that turtle? Why do you constantly use that one concept? So I want to explain you a little bit more of how we got from this nickname into a concept. Because I think that some of you might have heard the story that we have 3D printed our first idea, so the first milestone that you just saw, and people started to say like, "Hey, that looks like a turtle. That's that's fun, cute." And we think, yeah, okay, let's just use it. We just called it turtle, and it sounds fun. And then we started to dig deeper, and actually we found out that the turtle was in China is one of the 4 protectors of society, and in Chinese methodology, the turtle stands for wisdom, longevity, wealth, and protection. And then this thing started to come alive, because finally, because we got a narrative and a story to combine those the elements that we had initiated in our building. We had a story that we could use to sell our ideas to Chinese customers, and that in a way that they could understand and relate to. So for us, this turtle created a perspective and an outline from that cultural meaning, because eventually we had to tell our story to those customers, and symbols speak louder than words, and especially if you don't speak the same language, why not use a symbol to express what you want and what we mean with this, with our concept. And that also brings me to my next slide, because in our journey we had, of course, also the architectural part, the economic business, and the technical aspects, but eventually it all had to be brought to the customer. So we actually took a lot of time and effort to create a survey, and we were very lucky to have some connections in the area, and we sent out a survey to almost 40 customer or citizens of Dongguan, and to ask them about what are your concerns, what are your issues, what are your habits, and what do you actually want with urban farming and healthy food. So we we created our concept to acknowledge those concerns by overcoming those issues and using their habits to create what people want. And that really gave us a perspective and a solid base to continue to develop our concepts. And then next to that, when we talked to those experts, also during the Corona times, we learned a lot about how to do business in China. This was something that none of us were familiar to. Business was also the one aspect that we had kind of a lack in knowledge of. Within our team, we had a lot of diversity and a lot of different backgrounds, but business was the one thing that we lacked of, and it's also, of course, a Chinese context. So these were the topics that we learned that were most important within China in order to do business and to actually set up something within society. We saw that waste was a very hot topic, so we implemented that waste, the waste facilities, also to create transparency and also to create trust between each other. And that was something that we took to the next step. So this all turned out into our final concept, the turtle, and it was eventually based on three main aspects. We had heritage and innovation, we had health and transparency, and we had society and knowledge. And I will explain our concept following those three pillars. First, society and knowledge. Do you remember those four aspects of the turtle in the Chinese mythology? We had wisdom, longevity, protection, and knowledge. And so the first one is of society and knowledge, that to bring the knowledge to citizens in order to create healthier habits. We did that through incorporating living labs within our greenhouse in order to create knowledge with those citizens. We have several programs that people could bring in their green waste and to see what can come from it, because we would use that waste as a resource to heat up our building and to feed our plants. And then we get into health and transparency, which is to offer access to safe and healthy food, which comes at the protection aspect. So in the health and transparency part, it was all about being transparent of what means that there is healthy food. What does it mean? How is our products grown, and what do you have on your plate, and how to prepare it? That was also one of the big questions that came from the survey that people had. And also you see here, that was also one of the some results that we got from the survey, that people actually know what healthy food is, but they don't really know how to get there, and that they also wanted to contribute to healthy food and wanted to participate in that. And then the final part, the heritage and innovation, was this place where we would combine the cultural heritage of China and also of food production and of nature. That's led us to our 4-seasonal greenhouse, which was following the natural flow of food production. And in each layer, starting from winter, going up into the summer, where it was the hottest and we had the most light, which also allowed us to create a circular greenhouse, which could exchange heat, light, and between the layers of the greenhouse. And also, we used oyster brick and bamboo within our construction to mimic the cultural aspects and of the ancient building constructions. And we used all the knowledge that we have, and we put it into innovative solutions to make that connection to modern day life. And with that, we used the eco coin. The eco coin is a concept that is known here in the Netherlands, and then we transformed it into the turtle eggs. The turtle eggs is our own thought of currency that really connects people to our turtle, because people could earn those turtle eggs by doing voluntarily work in our restaurant, or to participate in educational activities or in the living labs, and also or when they would hand in their waste. And they could use it to buy stuff at our turtle, and also to gain knowledge and to be part of the community. With that, we also created an app in which people could get more transparent, could see how food was grown, and indeed therefore get transparency. Also see how much turtle eggs they had collected, and all stuff like that. So heritage and innovation helped to give citizens a better and longer life, and also to start a legacy for new generations and to create healthier habits. So yeah, that led to our final concept. Our slogan was to lead the path into the food of tomorrow. So we aim to also continue in our future to work on urban farming. Within our team, everyone was really excited to continue working with each other. We had quite a close bond. We currently have some conversations with Metabolic. We are talking with the Bijenskwartier in Amsterdam to maybe see how we can incorporate our concepts in already established projects. And we even have 2 people that are currently interning at Witteveen and Bos, which was also one of our knowledge partners, which is really great because I think that they could get along, get a far away, get very far there, and really proceed their goals. So yeah, on behalf of my entire team of Team Spirit, thank you very much for listening, and I'm really curious to hear if you have any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. That was a very, very interesting presentation. I also liked the way you chose a nickname and built your concept around it. And I also found interesting the way that you managed to take the crisis that we have experienced in the last year to build bonds within the team, but also how to connect with experts. Can you detail a bit more on this? How did you actually connect with experts? So what was your
yeah, that was well, actually easier than we also thought in the first place, because most of that really went through LinkedIn, and we would just shoot a lot of messages and email people. But also with the expert, the meeting that was hosted by the Greenhouse Challenge, we saw that list of experts that was there, and we also emailed some of them after that, which we couldn't have talked to during the event. But also we are connected to the AMS, That's also where most people from our team are from the MADE Master, which is connected to the AMS Institute, which is a research institute for metropolitan solutions. And they also have a lot of connection, a lot of people working there, very smart people that were very willing to help us out. So yeah, that was really good.
Thank you, Anna. I think there is also another question from Jens. It's about the wooden roster you implemented in the architectural design of the greenhouse. Can you tell a bit more on that?
That's indeed a very detailed question. I'm afraid I'm not one of the architects. I would love to explain you a little bit more about that, but I would then I think I could better get you into contact with with our architects. I can really explain it in more detail. But yeah, the wooden raster I think that you refer to is indeed in the dome. That also mimics the structure of the turtle shell, and to give it a little bit more of that feeling. It also, I know that it is designed in order to really take up the pressures of that dome. And also through that structure, it was possible to create a heat exchange system, which cools our building in a natural way.
Okay.
But if you have any more detailed questions, I would love to give the contact details of our architect.
Yeah, you also mentioned about a possible collaboration with Metabolics. And I actually, well, the Metabolic is also a partner of Foodie Project. I don't know if they mentioned this with you, which is also involving Wageningen University. And in the next year, we are going to implement these 15 pilot projects. One of them will be actually at the Keuvel community garden in Amsterdam. So there might be also chances for further collaboration.
Oh, great! Good to hear.
Then I think we move to the last presentation. Well, actually, at the end we will have also some time for further questions and answer. And now it's time for Alejandro to present the team Bagua.
Okay, thank you, Francesco. Good afternoon, everybody. So let's start. So I'm Alejandro Rueda Gomez. I'm from Team Bagua. I'm going to talk a bit about our concept. But first, I want to see an overview of the challenges we have of the 21st century, the big challenges we have. So we all know this. If we are involved in this environment, our current food system is unable to feed our growing population within our planetary limits, and our population is growing while our environment is being greatly destroyed. While climate change increases, agricultural productivity decreases, and population and income increase, food demand increase. So it's an immense challenge we have on this 21st century. I will venture to say it's one of the biggest challenges humanity has ever faced. I'm going to talk a bit about tropical cities because, as we will see afterwards, with the case of Dongguan, tropical cities will be hit the hardest by climate change and will probably receive most of the population growth of this century, especially on the urban centers. And it's particularly important because it's the region where 85% of the extreme poor live, and 1.5 billion people already live in this spot. So this image is from a paper that was released last week. The dark spots are the hottest areas in the world where people are currently living, mostly in the Sahara. And the gray spots are where how these areas will be in the year 2070. So basically, most of the tropical area of the world will be beyond a livable environment by 2070. So this is not only a big issue for temperature and people, but also for agricultural and productivity of agricultural crops. So how are we going to fit this amount of people with the challenges we have? So how to feed a growing population in a healthy and sustainable way was the question that the EAT Lancet Commission established. And they had a great paper a couple of years ago on a healthy and sustainable diet. And they established some guidelines on how we should face this challenge and feed the 10 billion people within our planetary boundaries. So with this in mind, I highly recommend everybody to have a look at it. We start now with the Organic and Urban Greenhouse Student Challenge, edition 2. So as Marta told, the edition was in Dongguan, China, and our objective was to create a livable and healthy environment for urban dwellers and to ensure that the city can feed itself sustainably. So first of all, we had to analyze the context, analyze the city, and that was the first step we did. We had to do a thorough analysis of Dongguan. The first thing that comes to mind is it's a tropical city, so we have an abundance of sun and water all around the year. So we set up our team. This is Team Bagua. It's a lovely, great team, interdisciplinary team. That's the most important aspect, I think, for this challenge, for the Urban Greenhouse Challenge, and for the challenges we will face in this century. I will talk more about it later. I think interdisciplinarity is a key to solving all the environmental challenges we will have. So we had 6 students from the Sustainability Masters of UAB at the Autonomous University in Barcelona, that it's itself an interdisciplinary master. 1 student of Bachelor Studies in Smart Cities, and 3 architects, 2 from El Cairo University, and 1 from ESADE and from Colombia, Manuela Andra. So we got together, some joined us in January, some started from the beginning, and we set with the aim of aiding the great food transformation by greening the mega city of Dongguan. So first we needed a story, something that will guide the whole process. This was a great consult by our coaches. And we started researching and we found the symbol, the bagua. Many people might recognize it by the yin and yang symbol that's in the middle. But the bagua is more than that. It's the union of mostly natural elements that with chaos create order and with nature collide with man. So we started with the bagua that comes from Taoism, a philosophy current in China, which I will say it's roughly resumed in go with the Tao. Going with the Tao means going with the flow. When change comes, you must not fight it. It's easier to embrace change and go with the flow. So at this point, we had a city with a lot of sun and rain, and we needed to produce a lot of food. And plants need mostly rain and water and sun. So that's where we started with the architecture. I'm gonna talk a bit about the areas in separate: architecture, food production, circularity. But bear in mind that all these processes were constantly flowing between each other. But I think it's easier to explain it this way. So in architecture, our main idea is we need a building that gets the most of the sunlight, and we need an idea that represents also our ideas of circularity and sustainability, and that integrates well with the concept of the Central Agricultural Park in Dongguan. See, these are some rough sketches, our first draft for the first milestone, and then afterwards we did some sun simulations in Ecotech to see how the light will hit the building. And finally, around March, April, we got to this beautiful design. We had to get more architects into the team. This is an advice to all the other teams: get a good team of architects, because one architect is a lot of work to handle. And yes, so this is the bagua. We are very happy with the building. It tries to embrace as much sun as possible for the food production. And for the social activities, I'll explain more how this gets distributed afterwards. As you can see, it embodies the concept of a semi-closed greenhouse, which is a greenhouse concept developed by the Dutch. This, you see like a double facade, the curved linear wooden facade and the inner facade. That helps ventilation, that helps the airflow from the lower part of the building to the upper part, and that helps to increase the ventilation of the building without needing any energy expenses in ventilation. And also, it is very good for pest control, so it has double feature. This is the Bagua Mall seen from the outside of the Central Agricultural Park with the community garden. And again, the light simulations we did for the building. So yeah, now let's see for the food production system. We need a food production system that was able, that uses less land, less water, and protects the crops from high climatic variability. So vertical farming, it's what I think we all got into this challenge for. So 3 types of vertical farming. Okodami has a paper very good explaining about it. First type, let's say the ones that go on racks or on towers. Second type of vertical farming is rooftop farming, or we have in the European Union the roof project. And the third type has only yet been done on a lot of designs, a lot of renders and images, which are complete buildings for vertical farming. So what we had to do was more like number 3 and using number 1 and number 2. So we did a lot of research, a lot of research on vertical farming, what works, what doesn't work. Some very good papers. I highly recommend 2 books that are very good. The one by Gundula Proksch, Creating Urban Agricultural Systems, and the one by Toyoko Kosai, Smart Plant Factory. But there's a lot of literature, especially in the past 2 years and 3 years about vertical farming. So from this research, we knew that the first step was establishing what are we going to grow before we knew how we're going to grow. And before knew what are we going to grow, we need to know what do people eat and how do we eat, how do they eat them, when and how is it produced. So first we had to look at the local diet. And in Dongguan is very particular because it's a city where 80% of its inhabitants are from outside of Dongguan, are immigrants. So it's a mix of local diets from all around China, around the area. And we also have to see, okay, what do they eat and what is profitable? What can we produce that they're eating, but it's not offered there too much and has a good price? And what of that we can grow in the greenhouse? And let's see how much light they need, how much temperature they need, what water, nutrients, and which ones we can put together. So this is just a small snapshot of the whole food selection process. Then we established 8 crops we will get into: tomato, garlic chives, Roman lettuce, napa cabbage, mushrooms, soybean sprouts, some microgreens, and some medicinal herbs. Okay, and then we had to establish the food production system. So we had in combination 4 food production system: a mushroom production system, leafy greens production system, a tomato production system, a plant factory, a PFAL, plant factory with artificial lighting for the medicinal plants, and the production system for the seedlings and the germination. And all these go together into the same area for weighing, labeling, and distribution. So this is how we distributed the building. We selected each floor. We selected the crops for each floor according to the daily light integral needs of each crop. So tomato needs a lot of light, so we put them on the upper floor. Then we had the leafy greens on the 3rd and 4th floor. And then in the areas where the light will reach less, we had on the sides the microgreens. They don't need that much light. And inside, where it's darker, we will have the plant factory with artificial lighting. So we will need as less artificial lighting as possible. This is important because from our research, and I think it's something that many people have started to notice, many vertical farms are struggling because of the operational costs of lighting, of electricity, and also the high capex of these systems. So we wanted to avoid that. As I talked before, we had the light and we had to just use as much of it as possible. Then afterwards, on the lower floors, we have the social areas for the social activities and the restaurant and a supermarket. Okay, so this is our product mix: tomatoes, leafy greens, microgreens, mushrooms, the daily life integral, how we distributed them. Some of the plant factory with artificial lighting, as I mentioned, and some of them on this system, which is the Sky Green Towers. I will talk it in the next slide. So, as I said before, tropical regions, a good light accuracy for vertical farming, and one of the longest running systems of vertical farming is from a highly dense tropical city, which is the Sky Green system in Singapore. Unfortunately, this doesn't make that much noise as the ones we see from the United States vertical farms, or the ones from here from Europe, but it's actually the oldest vertical farm system. It's still running and it's doing very good. So this system, what it uses is the production system, the Sky Green Towers, the Grow system, which rotates the tiers with plants by gravity, with the water that it receives from the catchment, rainwater catchment. It's a very efficient system, use very low electricity demands, and has very high productivity per square meter. So this is how we established the food production system. Lots of numbers, lots of Excels, lots of spreadsheets. But yeah, finally we had our food production about 600 tons per year, and that way we could determine how much water we will need to catch, what will be our electricity needs, our nutrients needs, and the workforce we will need. Okay, then on circularity, all of this in parallel. So in circularity, what we needed to do was maintain a flow of resources, the resources from the plants and resources out of the plants. So for the plants, we needed CO2 and water. Those two could be provided by some systems inside the building. And also very important, the management of energy and heat. This was something that we took from the ICTA building at the Autonomous University in Barcelona, which is one of the, it was certified a couple of years ago as one of the most sustainable buildings in the world because of a great system integrating all the offices with the greenhouse at the top for flow of ventilation, water, and CO2. So this is something we try to emulate, and with a great help from the ICTA team, the Sustainifra team. Also, we included photovoltaic shadows. This helped us catch some electricity and also diminish a bit the heat, because in greenhouses it's always more expensive to take heat out than in, and here we had that problem in being a tropical city. And also we try to integrate the food to waste to city system to integrate the food waste of the city dwellers of the neighborhood into the greenhouse and keep the nutrients flowing. And also the smart design using recyclable materials. The building is basically an exoskeleton if our business doesn't work, which hopefully doesn't happen, but it can happen. If it doesn't work, we can just strip it from the inside and it can work as an exoskeleton from any other project. We integrated containers from the shipping docks around Don Juan, and we integrated mostly sustainable materials also, although we have to admit one of the biggest challenges we have is always with the concrete, because with the concrete is a very useful material, but has a high impact on the sustainability of the building. So this was a big issue with the concrete. Now to the business model. I think this is a part that is sometimes overlooked, but it's very important, and the jurists pay a lot of attention to this, because you can design a beautiful building, a great system, great food production, great social impact, but if it's not funded, if it's not economically feasible, then nobody will pay for it, nobody will build it. So it's just a great idea, but to make it real, it has to be financially feasible. So this is just summary, but we had to go into high detail for the CapEx, the OpEx, the revenues, and the revenue source, and check that it's profitable. You have to work the numbers a lot. And be sure that the numbers can pass some tests. So we do some sensitivity tests to see how the business model and the financial feasibility will work with different costs, with different price, with different revenues, and see if it was strong enough to survive these scenarios. And we realized that in most of them, the business model will survive. So we thought we had a strong business model, and so did the juries, apparently. Social impact was one of our main focus since the beginning, because we realized by the context analysis of Dongguan that it was a disintegrated city, and there was a bridge between the rural people coming to the city and the urban dwellers in the city. And since it was a city of migrants, the city needed something to integrate the people into themselves. So we wanted with the Bagua to be a symbol, not only showing that it's possible to produce food within our planetary limits, but we can have a long-term impact with the education of next generation of farmers and the integration of the city. So we had this. It's good that we have this chance to show a lot of the work that I've seen also with the other teams. A lot of the work we did for the milestone that maybe many didn't saw in the final. This was a nice comic we had to deliver, showing how the building will go on the day-to-day. So we wanted to show how people from two different backgrounds could come together in the Bagua through two different objectives, but united at the end. Okay. So we also created the Bagua Prospective Producer Program based on the 8 principles of the Bagua symbol. And our main aim, as I said before, was to educate the next generation of farmers. One of the biggest challenges we are having now in the industry of vertical farming, and in the next step we need to do in the agricultural revolution and food production, is that there's a high need for qualified people for these systems. These systems need people with great knowledge of plants. We need plant scientists, we need engineers, we need architects. So it's important that the Bagua is not just a building that produces food, it's also a building that creates a meaningful impact in the future by creating this next generation of farmers for the city. So yeah, this is the final design of the Bagua with the building, and in the area that we could not construct due to the city licenses, we decided to do a community garden on the shape of China. We also took this from a paper that showed that for migrant communities, urban gardens served as a cultural refugee, a cultural shelter where they could conserve their practices and conserve their culture. So we wanted that each citizen of the one or the ones that visited the Bagua could have a piece of their homeland in the community garden. Some conclusions we had after our long journey about vertical farming. It can be operational feasible, but it needs low operation, but it needs to take advantage of the local conditions as much as possible, either on the cost or on the revenues. So in this case, we took a low operational cost by taking advantage of the abundance of sun and rain. It is financially unfeasible unless you have a low capex or low capital cost, which is strange in this high-risk industry. An increased production by increasing the number of harvests per year, or sales price higher than the retail price, although that is very risky, because in these types of products, consumers tend to go for the cheaper option. High investment costs are the main factor at the moment in the development of vertical farming, and the high cost of capital might be due to the lack of information on the successful cases of vertical farming and the novelty of vertical farming. In tropical cities, it offers a great opportunity to produce large quantities of food. It is not the panacea of the solutions. That is something that is always important to have. but it can enhance food security in tropical cities. And with increasing urbanization plus the increasing effects of climate change on the tropical cities, the food supplies will need the incorporation of urban agricultural infrastructure. So city planners and governments need to invest on these systems, not expecting capital returns, but energy returns, as food is energy. And we also think that these food production systems must be part of the urban public infrastructure and the climate change adaptation infrastructure. At the moment, it's mostly promoted by entrepreneurs, but it needs a lot more of public support, because in 10 years, 20 years, 40 years more, each decade more and more, we will need these systems. And on the challenge, well, it's a huge challenge. It was a great opportunity. It is very time consuming. I do have to say that, and everybody I think agrees, but it's a very rewarding, and we are, all the team members are quite happy with the whole experience. It's made us excited about the future. We learned a lot. It's a learning experience, most of all, not only about the topics of the challenge, but also about working in group, working in interdisciplinary group, which is a huge challenge on itself. And also, it's a mini challenge as a preparation of all the challenges of this century. And overall, final conclusion, interdisciplinarity was one of the main issues during the challenge, because if you move a bit the circularity, or if you move a bit the food production, you need to move the architecture, you need to move the business model, so we all had to be very on sync on what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do, and it was a tough balance, but it is achievable at the end. That's it. Thank you very much, and thank you for the attention, and thanks to Team Bagua. Yeah, very nice to see you all again.
Thank you, Alejandro. It was a very impressive presentation, and very well detailed also on how you target the different aspects. I don't see questions in the chat, but I do have one while I wait for others. And this is actually, you presented this interesting vertical farming system from Singapore, the Sky Green Farm. And then I think you also said that this type of system was also integrated in your project. Is it correct? So, and if it is correct, is it just under the tomatoes?
Yes, in the Bagua we use the Sky Green systems on the third and fourth floor for the leafy greens, just under the tomatoes.
Yeah, and how do you get the light through the tomatoes?
So with the light simulations we did for the building, we could see where the light will hit on the building, and then also the architects designed light tunnels on the upper floor where the tomatoes are. Actually, when you see the tomato production is one of the most reduced because of this, because the area it goes decrease as the building goes upper to get more light, and also in this upper floor we get these light tunnels to increase the light into these areas. So fortunately, I think this works in tropical cities. It's difficult for non-tropical cities, for example, for European cities, because in tropical cities, you know, the light, you have it like this almost all year in a very constant pattern. It varies very little, and we can take advantage mostly for the production on the morning light, and on the morning light for the production, and the afternoon light we had a bit, but it's morning and the morning light. And these systems, these towers rotate the trays, so you can set them to rotate according to whatever time schedule you want to establish.
Okay. I really liked also. Oh, well, sorry. I'll just have another short question, and then I'll leave it to you, Patricia.
Okay.
I have a question. You had this balance of fluxes of this common metabolism, similar to the ICTA building in Barcelona. which is something I also appreciate a lot. And did you manage at the end to get enough water from rainfall or energy from the solar panels?
What
was the final balance?
Yeah, for the water it was a struggle. We had to create canals in the Chinese garden to get more water because the rooftop catchment was not enough for the water we needed. So we started to create canals in the Chinese communal garden. And as you can see in the Chinese community garden, the divisions are the main rivers of China. So it also added a symbolism to that. For the energy, we got most of the operational energy from the biodigesters and from the PV shadows a little bit. From the PV shadows, they just bring you a little bit. But for air conditioning for the plant factory, we will have air conditioning and lights for the plant factory with artificial lighting. We will need external energy. So what we did is that we established that the plant factory was not a necessity, but a next step once we could achieve that energy supply.
Thank you, Alejandro. Sorry, Patricia, I took over your, your question.
Okay, I have a question for you. Thank you for your presentation. You said that this structure will help on pest controls. How do you are planning that, or how does it will work?
Sorry, Patricia, could you repeat me the question?
Yes, please. Did you say in your presentation that this structure will help on pest controls, pest management?
Yeah.
How do you are planning that, or how does it will work?
So, well, first in the inside we have an integrated pest management system, which is the traditional pest management system for these types of plant factories. And with the semi-closed greenhouse, how it helps is that when the air comes inside the double facade, it first comes through some filters where the pests are filtered, let's say it that way. Then inside the building, inside the greenhouse, the pressure of the air keeps the pest, keeps the air pressure going upwards. And that has been proved to help a lot with the pest management inside the semi-closed greenhouses.
Okay, thank you.
I think there is also another question. Yeah. Oh, if you want to.
I didn't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
So just go ahead, Francisco.
Yeah. So Alessandro is actually asking how does the environmental impact of your system compare against traditional system, and how did you actually evaluate it?
Alessandro is my boss from Groots, a vertical farming startup in Barcelona. So Alessandro, as we know, this system, for example, produces 600 tons of food per year. If we were going to produce this amount of food in traditional agricultural systems, we will need, I cannot calculate how much land right now, but it will be at least 40 times more land that we will be using for this building. Much more, I guess. Water efficiency is increased because the recirculation of rainwater helps us to not only not utilize the water resources of the city, but also by recirculating, we keep the water flowing inside the system, and we can save up to 90% water inside the vertical farming system. Then we don't use fuel as much as the traditional agriculture. We don't use any fuel. As you know, traditional agriculture needs oil a lot for fertilizers, for plowing, for management of the soils. So these systems, the environmental impact is can be measured in many ways. CO2 equivalent, or you can measure in the water saved. You can measure in the nutrients that you keep inside the system, phosphorus, desertification, deforestation. I think from many points that you see, these systems have a much lesser environmental impact. I cannot say that it has no environmental impact, but the idea is that we keep it as low as possible.
Okay. Okay. I wonder if there are any more questions also from our presenters. We are close to the end time of this webinar, so we can take one more question. Otherwise, it would be the time to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to prepare questions for the three teams. It was a challenge to choosing the plants, the species that you would like to cultivate in this system.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. Well, we focused first of all. We also focused on high value foods, but eventually we also found out that people just want food that they can prepare in their own kitchens. So then we started to, when we transformed to the 4 seasonal greenhouse. We chose also foods that were grown in those seasons and that people also would be able to use in their own kitchens. So we compared, we actually let it more depend on the eating culture and the season that the food will be grown in, which gave us a perspective to choose the food that were produced.
Alejandro?
Yeah, well, as we talked a bit about it, yes, it's difficult. We had a list of almost 50 crops, and we had to narrow it down. I think also always one of the most difficult things in this challenge was to narrow down your ideas to the basic, because as with the crop selection, with everything, we had many ideas, many things we wanted to grow, many things we thought will be great, but then you have to really start to dig into the details, and then we established eight crops at the end.
So then Team Cass.
So we weren't able to hear the question quite well. What was the question again?
It was a challenge choosing the plants or the species for production systems, for cultivating the systems.
Yeah, so for the indoors, we focused on high value crops and we looked at food safety issues, which occurred with ginseng, and also environmental issues, which occurred with ginseng. And dragon fruit, we saw a market trend of increased demand. So those were chosen for the indoors. For the outdoors, the basic farmland, we also chose the crops that were common in the area. And we had 2 plant scientists pick them. Maybe James?
The outdoor crops?
The outdoor crops?
Yeah, so for the outdoor crops, one thing we didn't mention in our presentation is we do have the community building program where the members can incorporate into our farming culture with the membership. And then in order to ensure the yearly production and yearly the members, in order for the members to receive the monthly products, we had to ensure the yearly production of the basic crops. So because of that, we did a cross cropping where we had to every other year we plant a different plant that can supplement the depleted nutrition from the previous year. And then we have a list of 10 to 16 different crops.
So we had some flexibility in where the people from the membership app could actually vote for the crop from the list that we provided to them, and that will be cultivated in the year on later.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Well, I think we are already over the time that was planned. I really thank you for presenting your project, I think there were some very interesting ideas in your concept, and also in the stories that you told us about the way you managed to work together. So thanks a lot to the teams presenting here. And I think this workshop will also be posted. Is it correct, Marta?
Yes, you will soon get an email with link to watch it back on YouTube, on our YouTube channel.
Okay, then thanks to all of you, and greetings.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Francesco. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.